This week on Arizona Illustrated, celebrate Arizona's indigenous cultural heritage with two renowned Navajo Silversmiths.
It's easier to go to the store, but I rather put in my own effort into it to make sure, to ensure the people that I know, everything's handcrafted.
It's a part of our family history, and I want to pass that on, keep that legacy alive.
The group Kyklo plays folk songs from the Aegean region.
Kyklo is unique. You know, it celebrates diversity in a very real way. And for me, I find that inspiring because I love to discover the world, and Kyklo is kind of a window into another place.
And meet a young man with autism who has found community through poetry.
Before spelling, life was quite upsetting. I treasure time when my poetry is heard by other people. Poetry puts me into the world. It connects me.
Hello and welcome to another all-new episode of Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara, and we're coming to you from Tucson's Lost Barrio, which is just east of downtown Tucson. Now, it's called the Lost Barrio, but it's more like the hidden barrio. I know I've been in Tucson almost 30 years, and this is my first visit here. But if you know how to find it, you'll discover a handful of unique shops and galleries in these historic warehouses. Preserving Native American arts and language is important for indigenous cultures in Arizona. Now, Alex Beeshligaii has worked as a Navajo silversmith for more than 30 years, creating beautiful works of jewelry by hand. Now he hopes to perpetuate his art form by passing along his language and traditions to his children.
Everything that I'm using comes from the earth. Growing up, that's what we were taught. I'm a part of the earth. We go back to the earth. Everything that we consume, it don't matter what kind of material. My name is Alex Beeshligaii. Beeshligaii means silver in Navajo. Since '93, I've been doing this because the affiliation with my name. I don't consider myself an artist. It's more or less like a craftsman. It's just the process to mold the metal, the rocks, grinding, the shells. It's a lot of work put into it. A lot of this I learned from other artisans. One of my main influences was in high school, and his name was Sherwood Numkima. He was an art teacher. He used to watch me do soldering, cutting designs out of silver, and he used to tell me, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, nah. But I ended up coming back to this and doing this. The stonework, this kind of work, I learned from a guy named Alan Wallace, who's a Washoe Maidu. Another guy named Rick Manuel, locally, he's Tono Odd. He does fine overlay. Those are probably my three major influences. Of course, I have to give credit to my mother for giving me life and teaching me the songs and prayers that go with life. Growing up, we came from a family that we were taught about prayers, and when we were given these prayers and songs, that's what makes us go. It's a part of what they call a small blessing way. It's a protection song that they give you. When you sing that protection song, you sing to it, you pray to it. That's going to be beneficial for that individual, and that they will wear it with pride. Fallen?
Almost.
It's on this side, huh? Tap.
At first, it was a way for me to earn a little bit of pocket change as a kid. But at the same time, it was the only time I had to spend with my dad. It was the only time I had to learn about my history or my culture.
He's been learning since probably like 9 years old. so he can know where that name came from and how to use these materials as I've taught him.
Growing up, I didn't really have like a whole lot of identity, I felt like. I felt really separated, and so I just wanted a connection in order to deal with, I guess, the duality of being a half-breed is what we called this when we were younger, but since I was half Navajo and half white, it was the only way to learn about my native culture. And that was every summer, every month off I got, I'd come out here and do a little bit of jewelry and learn a little bit more.
Every couple turns, you got to anneal it, because if you don't, it separates, because the molecules have to come back together. So there's a little bit of science and whatnot involved what you do with this. Here we have to do this by hand when we go through the process to get the thickness that we need. It's easier to go to the store, but I rather put in my own effort into it to make sure, to ensure the people that I know everything's handcrafted. That was inspired by my daughter with Missing Murder Indigenous Women series. He made the design, and so we incorporated that. And then the other pieces were bolo ties that were sand casts, and those were the basket series, like a Apache basket and Navajo basket, and those are just reflecting the baskets that we see for Navajo wedding basket ceremonies, and then the Apache basket used for utilitarian purposes. I think that each time I work with my kids, they do something, I work with them, they work with me, and whatever piece goes that we work together, those are very meaningful to me.
Without his knowledge, I wouldn't be able to create some of the pieces that I've over the years. He's helped me everything from soldering techniques, different ways of forming metals. He's given me a ton of information that I probably wouldn't have learned through a classroom setting, but probably would have had to have developed like he did over a long time. It's a part of our family history, and I want to pass that on, keep that legacy alive.
It's like a spiritual journey to me that's embedded in here. Also, my background's embedded in here. No matter who wears it, who buys it, still has my DNA, my son's DNA. So in that sense, it's a part of us. It's always going to be a part of us.
Be sure to watch for upcoming episodes of Arizona Illustrated, where we'll be celebrating the cultural impact that Indigenous communities have had on our state, in tandem with the national PBS series, Native America. Season 2 of the groundbreaking Native-directed show reveals the beauty and power of today's Indigenous world. Native America airs Tuesday nights at 9 on PBS 6 from October 24th to November 14th, and you can stream it on the PBS app. Kyklo means cycle in Greek, but here in Tucson, it's the name of a band that plays otherworldly, mystical music. They explore songs from the Aegean region, Bulgarian, Greek, and Turkish music. And sometimes Kyklo's music is so alluring, it inspires the audience to get up and follow in the steps of an old folk dance.
A good friend I grew up with is a poet. I said, how did you choose to be a poet? And he just said, I can't not do it. And I feel exactly the same way about music. I just can't not do it. One of the most amazing things about being a human being is having music. I come from a very sort of normal American, if that's possible, sort of WASP background. And so I learned piano and flute and all of those things.
I'm from Bulgaria. Bulgaria is an interesting country. It was communism for many years. My dad was a musician and he played weddings. So Being a musician was a little bit getting away from the communist regimes and getting his own ways. And coming here to the States, my dream was to really meet somebody, play music, and I'm really glad I met Paul.
Let's try it with the chords. It wasn't until I started to teach English as a second language I realized that there were a lot of world musics out there, and usually they were dismissed because Americans didn't understand them. They were relegated to sort of, oh, isn't that cute or quaint.
Years and years ago, before Kyklo existed, Paul took me to a Balkan band concert in a rug store in the Lost Barrio, and I had no idea what was going on. And we went there, and he just said, "You have to hear this music. It's really incredible music." And I just got taken with that music. And then Paul started Kyklo with Anton, started playing, and that was, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Everything you like E minor? Nobody can pronounce the name of our band. We had to choose a name fast. I remember that for like Tucson, Meet Yourself. It means circle in Greek. Red looks more Bulgarian, right? And this is kind of too Greek. This is too like...
Sometimes lately we've been very inspired with ancient music too, but yeah, the Balkan music is great for me because it brings me home.
We have a nice expanse and expression of Latin music in this community and some other places of the world, but this sort of really specialized area of Eastern Europe and Southern Mediterranean music is very special and very unique. And it really comes from their true lived experiences. And that's what I think is so beautiful about their music.
I do like to listen to it because it's just really beautiful music. It just makes me feel joy inside.
The guitar was my main instrument. My dad was a guitarist. Once I left the country, I got very into the folk traditional music. So I built my own tambura, actually, here. And that's a Bulgarian, kind of like a little guitar.
Yeah, look, you already started that.
I always liked bagpipes. They're a very special instrument. It's made out of a whole goat. Basically, it's the whole skin inside out. I always wanted to learn the mountain bagpipes that are bigger. So I was able to get a set, and I've been practicing and play the bagpipes as well.
And you play very well. I mean, when you go back to Bulgaria, you play in ensembles.
Well, I had a group there. Now I play sometimes with different people, groups, and we play in festivals, definitely.
My main instrument is the Gothic harp. So I've been doing that for many years. I mostly play woodwinds. I started on the silver flute like most people, but then got into the Irish flute. That changed with the Turkish Diné, which is in-blown, and then the kaval for Bulgarian music, and then the shakuhachi. I also play a Chinese instrument called the guqin, which is a very ancient zither.
I love it because it kind of transports you. I go to support my friend Paul, who plays in the band, and I've been watching them play for a few years. I love that about Tucson. You can experience different cultures here.
Kyklo is unique. You know, it celebrates diversity in a very real way. And for me, I find that inspiring because I love to discover the world, and Kyklo is kind of a window into another place.
A traditional musician is not somebody who's just doing something from before. It's somebody who is approaching the music with certain sort of sensibilities. So you'll have a lot of new traditional folk music, new traditional bluegrass, new traditional Irish. It's fine as long as it's kind of continuing whatever that something is that marks that tradition.
When we play, sometimes there's this moment of improvisation, so in the middle of the songs, and I could feel what Paul is feeling. It's really somewhere in some Turkish village out there.
Trying to really understand what these different human groups were doing with music and how beautiful it was. But to my original ears, when I first heard it, it didn't work for me. It sounded noisy. It sounded like it wasn't supposed to sound. And so for me, it's been very transformative. Not just listening to records and reading about it, but to actually participate, to go to learn the instruments from people, from teachers in those countries, and to continue to participate with a lot of respect. Thank you.
Next, we meet 21-year-old Joshua Greiner. Now, he is autistic, and he's been using spelling methods to communicate ever since he was 13 years old. Prior to using those sometimes controversial methods, Joshua couldn't communicate. But now he's even writing poetry, and this has given him a sense of independence, community, and newfound hope for his future.
All right, let's get that leg down. We got A, C.
This is Joshua Greiner. He's 21 years old, autistic, and non-speaking. It wasn't until he was 13 years old that he started using spelling methods to communicate, where he points to letters on a letterboard or a typing device. Prior to that, he had no viable way to communicate. For this story, I asked Joshua what his preferred voice is, and he said his automated voice, although he prefers the letterboard because it's less laborious. And because it takes a long time for Joshua to construct sentences, I left him with questions to answer in his own time.
Accuracy requires as too much accuracy.
I really thought when he first was able to communicate that it'd be a lot of, oh, I love you, Mom, and thank you, Mom. But he has lots of other things to say, too.
M.
Yeah.
S.
It's doing the autocorrect, and so that's why it's got screwed up. Is it better than, especially at the beginning, it was a lot of hard things to hear, him being bullied in school, or just his frustration of being in the body and going through so many years of trauma, you know, nobody, not even me, understanding. You know, you just think about the level of frustration that would build up, you know, year after years. All right, you want to use the letterboard or you want to use the keyboard? It used to be just a total guessing game of, you know, if he's screaming or if he, you know, seems to be clearly in distress. Is it a physical thing? Is he hungry? Is he thirsty? Is he not happy about something? You're just totally judging the outside body and trying to, you know, figure out what it is.
I started spelling with rapid prompting method when I was 13. I loved it, but I felt I needed physical support to feel my body in space.
Joshua also has apraxia, which is the loss of ability to execute or carry out skilled movement and gestures, despite having the physical ability and desire to perform them. It results from the dysfunction of the cerebral hemispheres of your brain, which is involved with movement, coordination, and processing sensations such as taste, hearing, and touch.
Really stripping things back down to a motor basic level is really helpful in communication with apraxic bodies because of that disconnect. So that's why you'll hear like some different verbal commands of putting your feet to the ground or just giving the mind extra input to connect with the body and coordinate those movements and patterns.
Up, up. Use those abs.
With the spelling, that pushback is giving the body proprioception feedback so it knows where it's at in space.
Before spelling, life was quite upsetting. People thought wrongly that I was without intelligence, without emotions. I was treated like I didn't understand anything by everyone, even my favorite person, my mom. I tried everything to reach her. Not having a voice is terrifying. I used to try to use toys that talk. Mom thought it was a coincidence. Picture exchange cards was impossible. It worked for requests only. Sign language was too hard for my apraxic body. The communication device was too slow and too difficult to remember pathways. I also use YouTube videos to tell people the things I want or feel. I've done that for many years, and my mom finally understood.
That's right. It was hopeless. It's all right. It's all right. You're good. You're good. When he was 18, we saw someone at a conference where someone was pushing back on their arm. So we tried it, and that really opened up so much for him. And I just push against his arm. I'm not leading his arm to anything. I'm pushing against it so he can feel where his body is in space. It's sad even once when we had started when he was 13 and he wasn't able to really demonstrate too much of what he was able to do. But the schools were, definitely not open to it at all. So we homeschooled the last 7 or 8 years, bringing him up to speed on all the academics that he missed out on.
Spelling methods are viewed by some as controversial because they say the facilitator bias cannot be ruled out. And because of this, schools have yet to accept it as a legitimate form of communication.
Just all points back to presuming competence and, believing there's a real person in there that has just the same feelings and thoughts as you do and being open to it and engaging with them. If you think this is BS, come to our house and talk with us. We'd be happy to talk with you. All right, correct.
There are common factors that influence physical, mental, and emotional health.
He had reflux, which we didn't realize, but he was able to explain the symptoms of it, and he had, still struggles with depression, but it's something that we can talk about now because just judging from the outside, you would have no way of knowing. Like, we used to go places, we'd go to the park, and he would just start screaming, and we would think, okay, he really hates this. See, we shouldn't have come here. Let's, go home. And now we know when he's screaming or he seems upset, it's really that he's really excited about something or he's feeling proud about something. And so being able to ask is just, night and day. Now he writes his poetry, which is just like another avenue into the world, and it's brought so many new people into our lives.
Let me ask the library staff about it. And this is Josh's poem. This is called Monument to My Life. Tree like living mountain, monument to my life, living with my ancestors, looking over all of us, pews in the sand getting light, filtered, pure light. Sounds regal, pretty for me. Restful tree, topping our real true light, earned by struggles. Pews in the sand, listen into the trees with love. July day, I hope, to escape your heat in my church. Such a beautiful poem.
I treasure time when my poetry is heard by other people. Poetry puts me into the world. It connects me. I will love to try teaching autistics. Will help to heal their pain from being stuck in a body that is under its own power. To free their voices.
I love you, E-U-D-D-Y. I love you, buddy.
No, the speech therapists are, but Unfortunately, autistic people, they're just solely judged on the outside of their body. They don't have a chance to explain their story. It's just assumed that it's because they don't understand. They don't have empathy, that's why their bodies might lash out.
This next poem is one that had a really big impact on me. The intro to this is a little description to all the poems about Janua. The Janua is a name I give to my wild, uncontrollable body. We're the two sides, Joshua on the inside, Janua is the outside. It is to help other people understand that I'm in here. Janua hits, but I love. Janua scratches, shouts, screams. He's not me. He loves no one. He just hurts everyone, upsetting, using my body to hurt. Janua sucks. Greedily wrecking everything. Janua knows how to make my body move better than I do.
People with autism, they deserve to be given the kindness of people just like everyone else. It is important to remember that we are intelligent and we understand everything. I look to my future purely with excitement to independently live.
Before we go, here's a sneak peek at a few stories we're working on.
Everything has a story on the loom. They have a sky beam. The earth beam. The night and the day. Where the fog comes in, where it's a very fertile ground. That's where the thoughts of your pattern comes from.
Usually I just work from memory. Flowers are just a circle with some more shapes sticking to it. So for me, it's like I just want to get lost in that. I start with a bit of inspiration and then I quickly let that go. When I'm making decisions and making choices in the moment, I just tell myself I can do whatever I want. And doing whatever I want is what keeps me moving forward on a piece.
Thank you for joining us from here in the Lost Barrio. Time for us to get lost. I'm Tom McNamara. We'll see you next week for another all-new episode of Arizona Illustrated.